Hello, Africa and beyond. Welcome to another edition of Tech Delete on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. The program that initiates discussions about young people in Africa. My name is Augustine Kollie, your host. Last week, we discussed friendship among young people are bound to cultivate peace in a world of crisis. This week's edition is about cultural diversity. The world's population comprises people from different cultures. Each culture has unique distinguishing features that differentiate it from others. Common features that differentiate culture from others include history, language, arts, and religion. Nevertheless, even though each culture has its primary characteristics, they continue practicing their culture while still appreciating the culture of others. Acknowledging the cultural practice of others reduces cultural conflicts and helps people live in peace. This edition of Tech Delete takes a look at cultural diversity, its importance, and some characteristics. But before we begin the conversation, my colleague Oge Oberika is on standby to provide some basic insights about cultural diversity.
The cultural diversity meaning is an ideological belief upheld in societies that recognize, appreciate, and respect the cultural behaviors and presence of other people or people from diversified groups. Societies comprise different types of people originating from diversified ethnic groups. Each ethnic group is constrained by its specific values, behaviors, and social norms. Therefore, a cultural diverse society enables and empowers different contributions that different people make from various ethnic backgrounds. Essentially, cultural diversity is the act of inclusiveness. That is, acknowledging people from different cultural backgrounds and creating an enabling environment that recognizes and values the social behaviors of others. There are considerable types of cultural diversity. However, broadly speaking, there are 4 types of diversity, which include internal, external, organizational, and worldview diversities. 1. Internal diversity. Internal diversity refers to any trait or characteristic that a person is born with. This might include sex, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, nationality, or physical ability. You may recognize many of these as protected characteristics, that is, attributes specifically covered under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. 2. External diversity. External diversity includes any attribute, experience, or circumstance that helps to define a person's identity, but is not something that they were born with. Examples include socio-economic status, education, marital status, religion, appearance, or location. These characteristics are often influenced by others and may change over time. 3. Organizational diversity. Differences in job function, work experience, seniority, department or management level are referred to as organizational diversity. Often, entire departments or levels of a company can be homogeneous, that is, everyone looks the same, comes from the same background, or has the same experience. However, some differ by having people of different background or experiences. 4. Worldview diversity. Worldview diversity encompasses a broad range of beliefs, political affiliations, culture, and travel experiences. Our worldview or our perspectives contribute to an innovative, inclusive work environment that is forward-focused. Anything that influences the way we interpret and view the world is part of worldview diversity. Now, whether it is language, race, religious, or ethnic diversity, cultural diversity is important because our country, workplaces, and schools increasingly consist of various cultural, racial, and ethnic groups. We can learn from one another, but first, we must have a level of understanding about each other in order to facilitate collaboration and cooperation. Learning about other cultures helps us understand different perspectives within the world in which we live and helps dispel negative stereotypes and personal biases about different groups. Cultural diversity also helps us realize and respect different ways that are not necessarily our own, so that we can communicate better, building bridges to trust, respect, and understanding across cultures. In conclusion, cultural diversity is what makes a country unique and interesting to live in, as people from different cultures contribute language skills, new ways of thinking, new knowledge, and different experiences.
That was Oge Oberika with some basic information about cultural diversity.
This is Take the Lead on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar.
Well, joining us today are four distinguished personalities who will be sharing their thoughts on the subject of discussion. The first panelist is Umin Gajaga, an actress, stage performer, a dancer, and a beauty queen. In 2022, she was the cultural ambassador for Cultural Feasts of the People of the Smiling Coast, the Gambia, and also the winner of the Cultural Ambassador title Miss KM 2023. The second panelist is David Vincent. David is a Benin born, but was raised in Nigeria and has lived in Senegal for 10 years. He is a university student in chemistry and applied biology department and works as an assistant community manager for the West Africa Democracy Radio. Next is Lamin Bojan. Lamin is a businessman and a country manager of Royal Sales in the Gambia. He holds an advanced diploma in travel, tourism, and hospitality. We also have Rose Samara Cates, a journalist and prospective graduate of the Media Academy for Journalism and Communication, MAJAC. Rose is a Gambian and is currently experiencing lifestyle in Senegal, especially at the West Africa Democracy Radio. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program.
Yes, I'm quite good. Mr. Kollie, I'm quite good. Thank you so much.
I'm doing good. Thank you very much, Augustine Kollie. Thank you for having me today.
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on this program.
Thank you, Augustine, for having me on this program. I'm quite pleased.
Okay, let's begin the conversation now with an overview of cultural diversity. And we start with you, Lamin.
Thank you very much, Augustine. Cultural diversity to me, it helps in promoting respect for other people's cultures and also learn how they function and live. Well, also, it is very important because people learn new skills from each other. Also, it encourages innovation through dialogue and consultations as well.
Okay, it encourages innovation through dialogues and consultation. That was the last line from Lamin. So let me hear from Rose Samara Cates, sharing with us her own understanding about cultural diversity.
Thank you very much, Augustine Kollie. Sometimes I wonder, it would have been really boring if all of us spoke the same language, had the same ethnicity, the same culture. It would have been boring because cultural diversity brings variety. It brings difference. It brings flavor. It is a tapestry woven that makes life interesting and rich because you have the opportunity to know the different ethnicities, the different culture, the different way of life, beliefs of people, and you get to respect it because that is who they are. And encountering them, you would also enrich them and they will also enrich you because of the experience and the life thoughts you would give each other. So I believe it is a way of life and it is what makes our life interesting and innovative.
All right. Indeed, we will go around the table regarding this. David Vincent?
I think cultural diversity, it's appreciation of the different viewpoints, different backgrounds that form a society. Because if we look at how we live in this 21st century, the world has become, we are shifting to what we call globalization. Globalization means the ability to communicate with people from a different territory, different background, different place from where you are originally born. So cultural diversity is appreciation of different points of views, different religions, possibly culture, traditions that are not basically our own, but also enrich and also bring flavor, as Rose said, to our lives in general.
It brings flavor. I will ask you more about maybe some of the flavors that you want to be specific about. Let's close up with Gajaga to explain her own understanding about cultural diversity.
Thank you, Mr. Kollie. Well, for me, cultural diversity is not just a way of life, but it is what defines us as humans. Like different people with different norms, traditions, and values. The essence of the variety of culture and ethnic groups in a society. It is just the different in our ways of life, from race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, gender, and so many others. So that is my definition of cultural diversity.
Now we would like to know whether it matters a lot, to what extent that cultural diversity matters in our society. And I want us to contextualize it in the African setting, why it matters if you believe that it matters. And we will get back to you, Lamine.
Yeah, of course, it really matters, because for me, I believe the reason why we are all living peacefully and in harmony, it's because of the diversity that we all have, because we all have different divergent views, but we all respect each other's diversity. You can be a Muslim, I can be a Christian, but we are living in peace and harmony thanks to the diversity that we have, and it encourages respect.
Okay, we'll go around the table hearing from Rose, Samara Kids. You were like, I wonder how the world would be if all of us from different countries, different backgrounds were just speaking the same dialect, having the same culture. So now, why is it important to have divergence of ethnicity, cultures in our respective countries, especially within Africa?
Yes, Augustine, thank you. First of all, I would like to highlight that as Africans, we have a lot of similarities. You know, our cultures, our beliefs, we share them, but everyone is unique in their own way. And that's why I said it would have been boring if all of us spoke Wolof or all of us spoke, the same language. So when things are diverse, it improves communication, collaboration, it builds empathy and understanding. That is why it's important, because you are coming from a particular place that I do not know, I do not understand. Sometimes we meet with people that we know nothing about. How do you get to know them? How do you get to work with them? How do you get to relate with them and learn and appreciate about where they're coming from? That is why diversity, and I appreciated what Gajaga said. It doesn't matter where you're from. It's the appreciation. And it is important because as Africans in the sub-region, we need to have a tolerance. And you can only build tolerance with communication and understanding. It is fundamental for a teamwork and to grow Africa as a whole. If not, we're just going to go back to the barbaric days when we are going to, fight with each other. But the art of communication and understanding one another makes everything beautiful. That is why I say it is a beautiful tapestry. You understand? You go to certain places, you hear their music. We've seen intermarriage. There's nothing more beautiful. There's nothing more diverse than that. Somebody would come from Ghana, marry someone from Gambia. Someone would go from Gambia, marry someone from Sierra Leone. This builds the connection. It builds a bridge that you learn. And when learning, you're diverse. And when you're diverse, there's nothing that is thrown towards you that you cannot accept. And learn from, because like they say, from every nonsense, there's a sense. So from every person, there is something else you can learn from them. So I believe that is why cultural diversity is important, because no matter where the world is going, without our culture, we're nothing. Before you know your destination, you must first understand the roots in which you're coming from.
Okay, that makes me cross over to David, because you talk about connections, you talk about experiences, meeting new people. David, you want to explain more about how cultural diversity also links with what we call cultural shocks. Maybe people travel from one country to the other. They tend to meet different culture, different people, different style of life. How does that tie in with cultural diversity?
Okay, as I said earlier, normally concerning the diversity in culture, especially in our African setting, moving from your country of origin to a different country, it opens your eyes to different perspectives with which they approach life. Like, for example, let me give a short example. Like, leaving my home country, coming down here, I was kind of like skeptical, because of in my home country, we are trained to move at a very, very, very quick and very fast pace. Very fast paced kind of living. You have no time to breathe, no time to play, no time to rest and relax. They believe that relaxing is for old people. So as early as 4 a.m. you are already moving. But moving down to the country where I am right now, here in Senegal, I kind of found it difficult to adjust at first, because you'd be awake by 4 a.m. You see people that are just going to bed. Basically just going to bed. You would see some people that they wake up at 9 a.m. You would wake up at 4 a.m. or at 5 a.m. trying to get to the shop to get something real quick. Real quick, maybe because you're going to school by 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. You would reach the shops, they are closed because the owners open at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. So these things bring a different perspective, and it was later I got to understand that they believe in the sense of not rushing things, take things step by step, once at a time. That's how their culture brought them up, and that's why they find it easy and very, very easy to recover real quick from any sort of societal crisis that they have, because they have learned to take things step by step. But from where I come from, it's really fast paced. So this is just an example of how cultural diversity can change someone's point of view on how to approach life, on how to take certain actions, on how to even adapt. Because adaptability is one thing that cultural diversity brings to and adds as a plus to a person. Just like I wanted to add also, cultural diversity in a society is just like building a house, but putting all the pillars in different positions. Because a house where all the pillars are on one side will always be lopsided, and with the tiniest of winds, it will crumble. But if the pillars are well placed at diverse locations, then the society will always remain strong, because there is no way the wind or storms of life would push the building and the building will fumble. No, that's just my own perspective.
I mean, it's so good that we've had diverse people of different ethnicity here on this discussion today. And I'll cross over to Kajaga. What do you make of what David said?
Thank you, Mr. Kollie. Well, I think in this case, adaptation really matters, and tolerance, because having to live in a country where how people react to things are different from the country you're from is an experience of its own. So having to find myself in a country where people live differently from what I am used to, I'll first of all try to settle in the environment, learn about the people that I am to interact with, learn about their cultures, learn about their norms, learn about their traditions, and also be open-minded to new things and to be able to adapt into the system itself. I think that will make living easier.
Okay. There are other aspects of this, which I will begin with Lamin Bojan on this. Yes, there are some societies, you arrive there and you might not be given the chance to get adjusted to the cultural practices, because sometimes you'll be stereotyped and sometimes they don't give you the chance to maybe have a voice only because of cultural background, ethnicity. What do you make of this, Lamin?
Yeah, Mr. Kollie, I think, yes, at some point in your life, you may come across things like that. But when it comes your way, you should be able to know how to go on with it. I would want to share my experience. That was when I traveled to Guinea-Bissau my first time. It was so much difficult because I couldn't understand the Portuguese and neither the Creole. So adapting to their lifestyle and their system, their communication was something very, very difficult. But I thought it wise that, look, I'm not in the Gambia anymore. I'm here and probably I will spend time here. So what I need to do is probably try to catch up and join the system. So what I did was I went out and bought a book and a pen, started to ask questions. Thank God there was a boy that understands a bit Wolof. So I was relying on him fully to learn the basic communication skills. And that is how things started moving on with me. And the diversification of, things where I think it was a very good experience altogether because my colleague also, his wife happened to pass away, so we went for the burial. This is something that I will never forget. It turned out to be something very difficult for us. The fight broke up, something that we have never experienced. And we were in a society where we were not known, and communication as well was not very, very easy, you understand. And those people also don't understand Creole that much, so they have their native language. So you have to understand how to move on with them, how to make sure that things worked out well and you come back safely. But thank God we did.
Just before we have the break, let's have each of you having your say about understanding the perspective of people or maybe your colleagues or your fellow neighbors who have different background in terms of what they think. How do you respect their perspective on issues and work with them to ensure that you have a peaceful environment? Rose, you want to say something about that?
Thank you very much, Augustine Kollie. You know, I have a principle which says you work on yourself before you work on others. Now, when you're going to an arena, whether a workplace, school, traveling to a different country, you have to understand that you're going somewhere that they do not know you and you do not know them. So as much as we are diverse, everybody has their own demons. You come with something, they also come with something. So first of all, you have to work on yourself. That is why when I was defining, I was saying it's important to have communication. It's important. It's a very important collaboration and empathy. You have to work on yourself to know that you need patience. Patience is the root of everything, because you're going into an arena where you do not know them, they do not know you, but yet you have a goal. You have to be productive. You have to be innovative. It can only come through the base of communication. Who am I working with? Who is Augustine Kollie? Where is Augustine Kollie from? We are living in the days of internet. Yes, they do not tell us everything, but they help us know things. Chat with the person you're working with. You know, sometimes people say it's inappropriate when you're in a workplace, you shouldn't chat personal. I say no. That is how you get to know what Augustine likes, what Augustine does not like, what I should do, what I should not do. Because once you've put in the base of what will hurt the other person, and as individuals, I believe what will hurt me is what will hurt you. So I wouldn't do unto you what I would not like people to do unto me. So that is it. Once you find that base of respect, understanding, and empathy, you can work. Whether there is language barrier or there's anything. Because when that is established, you would have the urge to learn. You would have the urge to communicate with the other person. And you will be motivated. But all that starts with communication, especially in workplace, like you said. You need to know the person you're working with. The person you're working with needs to know you, so you have to be open. So when the person sees that I am open, the person wouldn't be close, because it's going to be like it's biased. This person is being all nice and I'm not. So you will, sometimes your reaction will drop off on people. But if you come and you act all uptight, I do not know the person do not know me, you won't move. So we have to always put that at the back of our mind. I have a principle: communication is the key.
Okay. And one thing I also took from you from the beginning of the statement was that work on yourself to be in the best position to also understand the likes and dislikes of maybe your colleagues or your fellow men. But what about you, David?
Thank you, Augustine, for that question. I think empathy is very important, because when you empathize with someone, you'd have the desire to take a step back and consider the person before you take any action, before you say anything. And that goes a long way to, number one, make the person feel comfortable around you to start with. And the person will open up. Let me give you an example. If you were to approach someone and you know this person has possibly a certain history of violent activities, there's a way you would talk with this person, and this person would feel safe around you. That ability to consider your fellow and change your action according to how your fellow would react is what is very important also in the place of work, in school, even in your day-to-day activities, like going to the market and all these things. Just consider, this man has been standing here all day. I can't come and just shout on him because I feel as though he's not doing what he needs to do. There's a way I would communicate what I want to him without putting him under the pressure that he would have to either close in or create a barrier between me and him that will barricade both of us from any further communication. I remember when I was in university. In the university, we were 60 to 80 in the same class, and in that class we had about 9 different nationalities. But you would see people that basically group themselves in 6, 5 or 6 or 10s, because they're from the same country, and they wouldn't want to mingle with the other ones because of a certain amount of complex and difference in maybe mode of talking, mode of dressing, or something like that. And now I took it upon myself as a person to try and mingle with every group just to see what this one does that is quite different from the other one. And I noticed that it's not something huge. Most of the time, it's not huge stuff.
The differences are not huge.
No, it's not huge differences. It's just maybe minor differences, possibly in the way they dress, but maybe these others in the way they talk, maybe just little language barrier and all these things. And these are things that can be worked on as time goes on. If you have empathy to sit down and try and consider being considerate, consider the opposite party to see things in their view, and that's where broadening your scope and also having a different point of view also comes in, Augustine, as you said.
All right. That's right, David. Gajaga, what do you make of this as well?
Well, I had some of my colleagues say for you to be able to interact with someone, but then the problem lies in building the trust for that individual to be able to open up to you and to tell you about things that are disturbing them or things that they practice or are used to. So I'll be basing this on tolerance, I'll be basing it on patience and being open-minded, showing respect and a willingness to understand different point of views, like having a conversation about your colleagues' background, their experiences and opinions, and for you not to discriminate or be judgmental. I think helps in making sure that people are free and they will consider opening up to you. So this is my view or my approach to understanding the perspective of colleagues from different backgrounds.
So far, we've discussed the overview of cultural diversity, its importance and characteristics, as well as understanding the cultural perspective of people with diverse backgrounds. We are now taking a break with the song titled Love on Me by Nigerian singer Simi. Nigerian songstress Simi with the song Love on Me. Welcome back to Take the Lead on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. And we are still discussing cultural diversity. We are now resuming the conversation with concentration on some of the challenging aspects of living or working in an environment of diverse people. And the first panelist to begin this session is Lamine Bojan. Lamine, can you share your experience of this nature?
Well, one of the challenges I would say is like trying to appreciate other people's beliefs or tradition. In as much as you have your own belief, culture, or whatever, I think the most important thing is to appreciate the other person's also views and beliefs. In that way, I believe we can all live in peace and harmony. Flexibility, in fact, is very, very important. Like, if you are living with people, you should always try to adapt to their system. Try to be like the way they are, because it will always help you to learn new things. So if you have that kind of experience, wherever you go, I believe you should be able to settle down, because there you go, you also find other people with different beliefs as the previous ones that you've dealt with. So adaptation is key to that, I believe.
Well, let's hear from David in terms of the challenges. I know you must have experienced some of the challenges, especially living in a strange land, different people, different culture.
Ms. Gajaga said earlier, most of the time is the ability to build trust in your fellow colleague, in your fellow classmate, possibly in the other party. That ability to build trust, and most of the time it also comes down to language barriers. Language barriers plays a very significant role in driving a wedge between two people or two societies because trust me, once you try and learn someone's language, it's almost like a switch that you switch on that gives the person the feeling that, oh, this person is really, really, really invested in trying to know me. So that ability to try, even if you don't need to learn all the entire language, but be able to learn those tiny little tidbits that help to pass a message across without really being too complicated. Like now, when I came to Senegal, I didn't understand French nor Wolof. Luckily for me, right now, I speak both of them fluently well. And
Congratulations.
And when I go to the market, people I don't even know, once I speak to them in Wolof or in French, they feel happy, and they will want to get close to know, because they know that I am not a Senegalese. I am not a Senegalese. But that Wolof alone gives them a sense of security to a certain sense. Security and trust that this one is part of us.
Yes, that oneness, togetherness.
That togetherness. Though I don't have a deep vocabulary in the language, but I endeavor to get a certain amount of knowledge in that language. That language now opens doors for me, even to people that I don't know from Adam. I go for a certain event. I see someone. We are standing just by the railing there, looking at the sea. I just speak to him in Wolof. Immediately, the person seems shocked and surprised that I understand Wolof. And then he responds, and from there, a conversation starts.
Yeah.
And trust me, that builds the trust that Ms. Gajaga spoke about earlier. That trust, because trust me, when you can communicate freely with someone in a language that you understand, it facilitates the process really, really quickly.
Okay. A major takeaway from your statement is language barrier is a major challenge, especially in cultural diversity. Let's also hear from Gajaga. What do you consider as some of the challenges?
Well, language barrier is a challenge, but in as much as it is a challenge, I also want to talk about discrimination and the fear of rejection. Because in most cases, once you find yourself in an environment that is diverse, especially from your views, then the fear of rejection and discrimination is always there. Like, for instance, if I am used to this culture, if I'm used to this norm, for example, in the Gambia, they say most of the ladies would use their hands to eat. Then maybe I tend to find myself in an environment where only men are allowed to eat with their hands and ladies will eat with spoons. So the fear of being rejected just because I feel that I don't have the same view or the same norms, the same cultures with those people can always deter me from participation, can make me to disregard their cultures, can make me feel that I am not included. So I think that is always a challenge when it comes to the aspect of working in a diverse environment.
Okay, let's conclude this question with you, Rose.
In order for something to blossom, that particular thing, whether a person or flower plant, must be comfortable in the arena in which they find themselves in. And like you said, trust. Yes, trust is very important for both parties, because it's only when you're comfortable in a certain place that is when you can truly show yourself. And going as a person, like Gajaga also mentioned, the fear of acceptance. If I open up myself, will I be received? what I am doing, is it the way they are doing it? Sometimes we think of a lot of things. It's good. It's very good because you do not know, what they are willing to accept, what they are willing to take from you. So at that point, it makes it very, very difficult for you to show them what you have. I'm not a very big traveler like them, but the first time traveling out of the Gambia, out of the place I know, I'll eat. Even when the journey I did not eat, because I was like, I'm going to a place I do not know. In the Gambia, whether in Serekunda, Brikama, anywhere I go, anything that happens, I know a spot to go. But you're going to a place you do not know. Yes, Senegal and Gambia have similarities. We're neighbors, we're family, but there are differences. The language is there, the French. When they say study French in school, you think it's a joke.
You think it's a joke?
Seriously.
I know what I'm saying.
You go to a shop, they tell you San Francisco, they will collect your change in front of your eyes. It's not because you're naive. It's not because you're stupid. It's because you just do not understand. And you go to a place and you feel inadequate. You feel like, I am here. Am I worthy to be here? I am here. What is the inputs I can give? These are all questions you ask when you go to a place that you're new. And it has happened. You know you can do something, but you get into the face of that and you frighten, you shrink. You're like a turtle, you go back into your shell. And when that happens, before you get out of that, it takes time. Because you start making blunders in which you feel that I should not be doing this. But like she said, it's still the fear of acceptance. Will I be accepted? You understand? Will I go wrong? We try to be perfect too much that sometimes it becomes a challenge. You understand? And it's something that I will not say something you'll find a remedy. You will experience it. When you travel, that thing will be there. That thing. Some people will say food. I'm a foodie. Food. Food is important.
I know, right?
As much as language is important, food is important because you go to places. They cook. You wouldn't even understand what they're cooking.
Yeah,
it's important. You wouldn't understand what they're cooking. What will you eat? You understand? And if you're someone who is not versatile with the area, where will I locate the market? It's difficult. And without sustenance, I will even say you are coming to do trust and building communication. It is very important.
I mean, it's so interesting having you on this conversation today. So I would just want you to also tie this onto your recommendations. Like, how would you handle a situation where maybe a colleague or this national that you've met, different from yours, was being very culturally insensitive or maybe racist or homophobic in terms of their reaction towards you? How would you handle such a situation? I know, David, you're looking at me, and so we'll just begin with you.
On that note, I think it's basically has to be communication, not just language alone, but communication is key. Because the best and the easiest way to pass across information or to pass across how you feel is through communication. Like Rose said earlier, it's not just coming to work only. Also try and learn to know the people you are working with, and that will also help you in knowing what to say and what not to say, what to do and what not, because you don't know the backstory of the person you are judging. Prejudice is a very, very dangerous thing because you don't know the backstory of the person you are judging. You don't know the history of the person you're judging. You don't know how high up the scale he is when it comes to mental health issues. You do not know. So basically, I think communication is key. If I was in that person's shoes, I'd rather sit down with this fellow and have a clear discussion on how things are supposed to be done. We will understand that. Now, if the person is not reasonable enough, then the person has nothing to do in your life. Sorry.
Wow.
That's how I feel.
All right. To you, Umi, what would you do in this case?
Well, I will tackle this issue by using dialogue, and the method of approach would be basically communication. Like for you to be able to call them out, you put them, because I feel if you make the issue about yourself, the person might not tend to understand where you're talking from. So calling them out, you put them into that situation and address the insensitivity in a way that is more private, and where you can foster dialogue and also show them that the perspective they have of such is not the right thing. So by doing that, I think they can learn one or two. And next time, if they're to make any decisions or communications, they will tend to put these things into consideration. My recommendation will be a dialogue.
Okay, a dialogue. Lamin, what do you also make of this?
Well, thank you, Mr. Kollie. As the previous speakers already elaborated, yes, it's good to respect other people's opinions, but there are things that you need to also elaborate to them to make sure that they understand how the world is going on. Because if you look at racism, homophobic, other things, they are not things of a modern day democracy. Only dialogue.
Okay.
And trying to cancel them. It's not like you are trying to discriminate or trying to kill them, but it's the way the world is going. So I think those are things that should not be existing in this modern day democracy. Okay. So as Gajaga and the previous speaker already said, we need to engage them in dialogue, try to tell them the importance of living that away and live a democratic and modern world.
Thank you. And Rose?
Yes, thank you very much, Augustine Kollie. First of all, like I said, I would say it again, the process of self-reflection, it promotes personal growth. Reflect on yourself first, because sometimes there's so many little things we do that make people react in certain ways. When people are stereotyped, when people are racist, it gets the better of us. We would say we would take all this, or this is what we would do. Sometimes it hurts. It really hurts before you tend to sit back and say, let me even think of what this person is telling me. You understand? And you can only control yourself or not act the same way they're acting if you have self-control. That is very key. Self-control is very key. If not, you'll be worse than what the person is. Because when people make certain statements or act in certain ways, as a human being, a correct one, a standard one, your first impulse is to react. That is it. Why will this person say this to me? Or does the person know who I am? That's the first thing. So the ability to control yourself and not react the way the person is reacting is a gift. And not everybody have it.
Okay.
So to practice self-restraint, it is very, very good. That is when you can educate the person on the other hand. But if you're not controlled, you cannot educate the person on the other hand. And like I said, it all boils down to communication and understanding. But you can only pass that through if you have that ability to control yourself, not to react the way the person is reacting, but to understand him and communicate with him.
This is where we draw the curtains on this edition of Take the Lead on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Many thanks to you, dear listeners, for joining the discussion on cultural diversity. Remember to take the lead in shaping the discourse for the betterment of young people in Africa. I am Augustine Kollie. Do have a great day.
We thank you for listening to this program in Nigeria on Darling FM 107.3 Owerri, Southeast. We thank our listeners in Liberia on Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Nova County, Kwakete Radio 100.9 FM, Barga, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riversest. In Sierra Leone, we thank our listeners on African Young Voices, Freetown, Radio Bath 91.3 FM. In Ghana, Radio Pod, Savannah Region, Reals FM 104.7 Wenchi. In the Gambia on Numi FM 94.0 North Bank Region. Radio Veritas 102.9 FM The Gambia.